Welcome, everybody.
Ready?
Welcome, everybody, to today's HEAS talk in our series, Paleolithic, Human Evolution and the Paleolithic. It's a pleasure today to have Enza Spinabolitze as our guest and speaker. Enza is currently associate professor at the University of Rome. And Enza has done her undergraduate education in Rome, a master in Bordeaux, and then a European PhD in Rome and Bordeaux. And she defended that PhD, I think, in 2008. Enza then moved on for a Marie Curie to the Max Planck Institute in Leipzig, the Department of Human Evolution. And that's, I think, where we met again after meeting 2006, the first time in Jeanzac. She then stayed for several postdocs at the Department of Human Evolution at the Max Planck. And then finally in 2015, she followed me to Cambridge.
I'm following.
No, she actually got a postdoctoral position at the Leverhulme Center for Human Evolutionary Studies, part of the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology in Cambridge. And from there, she moved in 2016, I think it was, to Rome to take up her position at the University of Rome. She's conducting fieldwork currently in Ethiopia, and she's in general interested in the archaeology of modern humans, and especially of the origins of modern humans, especially in Eastern Africa. She's also interested in the interplay of behavioral and biological modernity, if I may say so. And part of that, I think, is also your interest that comes out of your PhD research on Middle Paleolithic and MSA mobility and land use systems, which of course is quite interesting in comparing. So more recently, I think you also got interested in primate archaeology because you were hosting a postdoc very recently on that, on some work on macaques. Capuchins, sorry. Yeah. We are very happy to have you here today, and Enza will talk about her research in Ethiopia. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Philip, for the very detailed presentation. We know each other since so long, so he knows everything. And thank you, Tom, and all the department for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here between friends and to share some thoughts today. So basically in this talk, this talk will have two parts, a much more general part about like the concept of behavioral modernity and a little bit what I think about it. And then I'll go to my excavation in Gotera, and then I'll try to kind of connect the two aspects and share some final thoughts. It's, sometime when you wake up, you ask yourself why I'm here and what I'm doing, especially if you're overworked. And, the thing that doesn't make me sleep at night is what is this humanity we have? What makes us human, what it means to be human, and basically, why and how are we different from other living things and our cousins, the primates? I say always to my students, I put Idris Elba and Beyonce as most, representative human being. And are we unique, or do we just feel unique because we like to? And to be honest, it's not hard to answer to this question. But one of the things that make us really unique is, I think, it's our diversity. So the way we cope with different situations in different ways. And if you see this picture, you see we are either, physically diverse and behaviorally diverse. And this is a quote from John Shea. So our species differs from our relative in our capacity for behavioral variability. So from this, I started to drive some reflection that I want to share with you today. Another thing that I think makes us differ a lot from the other species that we like to say stories. And it will not be the argument of my talk today, but I prepared this for another talk recently. And finally, you think, and say, what is so different? And maybe this is the real difference. Because we really like to say stories, to tell stories about things we have never seen before. But if I say Indiana Jones or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, everybody understands. As if I say Jesus or whatever. So, but as Philippa was saying, I'm really interested in how the biological and the behavioral evolution are related. So which one triggers which ones? I've struggled before in my life with the concept of nature. What is natural for us? Sometimes you see this word used like, yeah, I want to go back to nature, or we need to be natural. We go to bio, supermarket, whatever. So for us, maybe it's natural to be connected with tools, or maybe we are not natural at all, or our nature is this, I don't know. But anyway, this is one of the things that I like more to investigate, or at least to make questions. So all my research and most of the research in current time around this topic goes around this question. So when and how there were the first modern human, what is modern behavior, how does the behavior in ancient hunter-gatherer change through time, why, what happened, so what originates out of Africa, and how and why and when all this diversity we can observe now has generated. I will not answer to these questions, but I'll try to create some kind of fil rouge, some kind of connection between all of these things. And I'll also tell you something about my research in Gotera, so in the second part of this talk. So, as you know, the first Homo sapiens come from Africa. All the paleontological, genetical, archaeological data go on this direction. However, at the moment, there is not a real consensus about how this happened. There is this the Pan-African model from Ellie, Sherry, and Chris Stringer, and other very smart people. And there are also other models that are more on a single origin or a modified single origin model that sometimes goes better with some of the genetic. So on this point, yeah, we know we come from Africa. We know the key period is around 300,000 years ago. But the how is not so clear at the moment. And to complicate our life, there is this big, huge concept of behavioral modernity. That is, yeah, okay, these people 300,000 years ago, oh yeah, they were not really human, they were not really like us. They didn't paint Lascaux, and Lascaux is so important. So to be human, you have to paint Lascaux. And so this idea, this concept started, yeah, this is a little add-on about our cousin Neanderthals. So the question is, are they also modern is also very central right now. But yeah, as I was saying, this idea of behavioral modernity was born in a way that really contraposes things like, okay, this one are the modern ones because they do this and that, and the other ones are not. So there are a lot of models. It's an old slide I have, but I mean, to summarize all the models about behavioral modernity would take a big table. But basically, the question is the behavioral modernity synchronized with the emergence of Homo sapiens, or it's not? And if it's not, and if it happens later, when it happens, and what is that marks it? So if there is any boundary, and if there is a boundary, why it's there? So as I was saying, The question about European Upper Paleolithic has been central in this regard, because in the European record, we used to see a breakage in the record, you know, so we had Mousterian, and then all of a sudden arts and a lot of nice raw material and bladelets and so on. So we say, oh yeah, something must happen. So this is the Upper Paleolithic revolution. Except that, of course, this is one of the lists that the poor colleagues in the 80s and the 90s were trying to compile to make this model work and say, okay, shall we put the work at bone and mantle? Yeah, let's put it in. And then you find out that, yeah, Australopithecus basically worked, no, not Australopithecus, I'm joking, but to work a bone finally is not so, I mean, exceptional. And then it is, they went for fish hunting. And then you see that really also Paranthropus, they eat fish in the Turkana like 2 million years ago. So this list has been, okay, we put it in, we put it out, we put it in, we take it out, and the model is not really working. And there has been this big paper that all of us know in 2000 saying, okay, guys, don't you think that maybe this perspective is a little Eurocentrist? Like in Africa, we don't have any split because we don't have Neanderthals, and we see a continuity since like around 300 years ago. And 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago is when the first modern humans should be. So these models of continuity seems to be maybe convincing in Africa, although still we have a problem with this list because this is, yeah, the 2001, 2001, and most of this is gone, I think, in my opinion, at least. So we have this very diverse record in Africa, and also we have this very diverse fossil record in Africa. And this is why also now this model about African multi-regionalism has come out. So there is a period in time, specific period when key things are happening, but for the moment we are not very, I mean, I don't have the feeling we're really understanding what's going on, especially because the fossils are very few, they're very scattered, most of them, we don't know where they come from. So if you put it on a table, then, I mean, for any other discipline, you would say, I don't know. But for paleoanthropology, of course, any fossil is so precious, every fossil is so precious that you want to make the most of it. So I understand that we try the models. At the same time, I can say it's not so clear. And then, yeah, about the behavioral modernity, we know that basically, say, I mean, in a maybe brutal way, what happens later in Europe happens very, very earlier in Africa, basically mostly anything. So the bone industries, the pierced shells, the blade technology, the harpoons, the carving, anything. So we can say, if we believe to the behavioral modernity model, that's okay, behavioral modernity started in Africa together with the first Homo sapiens. Yeah, I just put some example of what is considered to be behaviorally modern and emerged very early in Africa. So like the body painting through ochre, so the use of ochre, possibly for body painting, the incision and marking of things. I did a whole talk about this a few months ago. And, you know, there is a difference between an incision, a sign. Is there any actual meaning of it, or is just a decoration, or is just a sign of possess? I mean, it could be anything. But anyway, this is the first area in the world when they started to have this behavior, basically South Africa. There is also something that I think is quite interesting, because in some region in Africa, there are hunter-gatherers, and sometimes these hunter-gatherers display some behaviors very similar to the one that we can recollect archaeological. Of course, I will not tell you how dangerous could be this kind of discourse, because of course this is not the same people. The time has passed for them. They are not living fossils for them. I mean, we harmed them enough not to treat them as living fossil. I mean, it's enough. nevertheless, there are some peculiarities that could have survived the time somehow. And this case, like with the digging sticks that have been found in Blombos cave, is nice because the Kung people there, women, are still using the digging stick of the same size and the same type at the same in the same place. So, I mean, it could be fascinating. Also, there are a lot of studies right now, mostly because of Francesco De Rico, who's working on the beginning of numbers and this kind of system. So are these markings on the bones what is called artificial memory system? So do they use it to remember something, to count something? We don't know. I mean, they say, yes, it could be, because this is an object, this one is from about the cave, has been used for, I mean, because it has a polish, so it has been used, but and it could be something used to count, but how can we be sure? I don't know. We come to the more skeptical part of my talk. So I think it's time for us to understand what we are looking for. So what is this behavioral modernity we are looking for? Are we really looking for how we are different from other people, other species, ancestors? So what is the point? And today I said, okay, why don't we try to say that modern behavior is the variability of behavior of hunter-gatherers, all the hunter-gatherers. So if you ask me what is really Homo sapiens like, I would say stories, tell stories, what I'm doing right now, no? And we like it a lot. And also to be very diverse and to do things differently. Also, I think it's really specific of us. I will maybe have slides later, but I anticipate, you know, I study lithics, and when I gave up Neanderthals, I mean, I stopped. Yeah, I did. I will never give up Neanderthals. I stopped studying exclusively Mousterian, and I went to Africa and started to work on MSA. I realized how diverse is MSA compared to Mousterian. Mousterian is so schematic. They really do always the same. So at the point that has become like a religion, you know, Mousterian, Levallois with Boeda, you know, is written there in the book, and you find the same in the zones. With sapiens, I mean, with MSA, you can't do the same. So you find the zone, you're there, oh God, what they've done? They start doing something, and then at some point, oh, they go up, they put the color upside down and say, no, let's do this way. And if you have kids, I think you can see it at the same time. No, one kid does the thing this way, the other one does the thing the other way. And if you want to teach how to do things, they have to observe you many times to do exactly the same. Otherwise, they will go anywhere to try everything. I mean, they are so curious and they are so impossible to stop. So I think the variability of behavior could be maybe a path we could try to see if it works. And so in this perspective, if we start to see a continuity in Homo sapiens, so behavioral variability in Africa around from like 300,000 until 200,000, and then in Europe in the so-called Upper Palaeolithic, and then in the farthest part of the world that have been like occupied by sapiens later, you know, things became different. You don't want to look for one single trait. So this bone has been carved, this figurine has been painted, this single line, is this a sign, is this art, is this a picture? It's just, you know, the very diverse way of doing things. And I like this idea also because it includes lithics. I don't see. And since I like lithics, I like the idea to put all this variability in, like, be truly Homo sapiens. So I want to, like, somehow include the lithics. And just to put an example, now what I had here. Yeah, so the global variability in Homo sapiens behavior. And you see, this is some random Middle Paleolithic. I mean, not random, but like some examples of Middle Paleolithic. And we have headache because some traits are really similar. So you see things done in a very specific schematic way, like, I don't know, bladelet production, sometimes can be very schematized, so very progressive and do and that. And other things are completely different. And in the same assemblage, you can find things very diverse and very similar to other assemblages, you know. So to understand the variability in lithics, it's really hard. And up to now, we are discussing, and we don't have a method. I mean, we try, we do multivariate statistic, we do chain operatoire, we do technology of raw material and anything, but it's not easy. And lithics are the most common thing we have. And they must, I mean, tell something. I can't believe like we can say anything by a single line in a random cave somewhere and I mean, all these lithics not be representative of Homo sapiens. We have thousands and thousands. So, I mean, only just me, I have thousands, so I imagine. So we go in a very complicated domain of cultural transmission and how it works. Because of course, if I find, so all of these lithics, these are the same, these are very different, these I don't know. So I try to understand if they do things because they have been taught this way. So is there direct cultural transmission, that the one that we would call branching, or, you know, this, the one that in Europe we call acculturation. So you do the same thing, but in the other way, or you use the same bladelet to do something completely different, like, for example, to put it on a necklace, like some of us do. And also there is the problem of convergence. I participated to a nice book 2-3 years ago, all about convergence, because someone used to say there are 30 ways to do something, maybe not 31. And so maybe once you go around all the 30, some other people would do the same somewhere else in the world one day. And of course, I think this is a very important topic. And to me, I mean, it makes me more passionate than the idea of behavioral modernity, something like illumination that at some point suddenly happens and make us paint the caves. And of course, I don't have to remind to people, I mean, this is not the best maybe picture, I couldn't find a better one, but culture is a system, all of us we know. So if you paint something in a cave, you're not like alone, you're not an alien arriving here and say, yeah, today I have to paint in a cave. There is all a world around you, and there is a world around you also if you don't paint, let's go. So this kind of symbolic, so-called symbolic behavior must be triggered by something else. So by the whole social system, and the whole social system also produces lithics and bone and hunting behaviors and territories and whatever that is non-material. You know, maybe I have a slide about that, but we have the material culture. But recently I was chatting with someone and say, what if Neanderthal expressed symbolic behavior by dancing? We don't know. So we have material and we know we stick to it, but we don't be narrow-minded, have to be narrow-minded, I think. So to go back on the archaeological record, so now we have this model in Africa, the idea that humanity stems from Africa, and we have this process, the out of Africa. So at some point, these people went out and we have been, I mean, we are old, so we remember the time when there was this single arrow going there, like the same as if it had a purpose. But of course, we know they hadn't a purpose and there weren't specific people going there. So it was an expansion of our species. Right now I see it like an expansion, like a biological expansion of the area of our species. And also it went against possibly other species, in the sense that they occupy territories and so on. Yeah, this is just an example. possibly is not the best the best picture, but this happened. And what I also think is that the potential for behavior, the big variability we have in East Africa. I talk about East Africa because I work there, but I'm not against South Africa or North Africa. I like the colleagues, bye, ciao. But let's say in East Africa, at some point, let's say around 170,000 years ago, there is finally the potential for all that happened afterward. I mean, the genetic tells us the bigger genetic diversity is in Africa. And all of us were just, some kind of peripheral happening. So I think we should understand also this. And in particular, there is this idea that in East Africa, there is not this behavioral modernity because we have no painting or no scratched bones or whatever. I think, of course, it's very interesting that, for example, in South Africa and in North Africa, they produce this kind of archaeological record. I think something very interesting was happening there, but I don't think it's something connected with the inner Homo sapiens core. I think the people in East Africa were probably as capable as the other one of doing it. They just didn't. Anyway, and as I was saying, so it's from there that the entire human diversity started. So it's not, to me, to go back to what doesn't make me sleep at night. This is why also I'm there. I mean, I'm working there in Gotera. I'll show you. This is because I think it's one of the best places to go to try to answer to all of these questions. I have some random questions that are not easy to answer. So how is our link, our present Homo sapiens specificness linked to past people? So is continue, is rupture, is broken, sorry, is a flow, is a stair, is continuity ruptures and then again and again. I think maybe we should study some epistemology or some, to put it in in a big theory right now. I think really we need it to structure our relationship with the past in a big paradigm that works. I think it's time. And so another problem we have is that, complexity increases. So now we're sending rovers to Mars. At the same time, we're not saying that we are better than people who are not industrialized. So how does it work? So the expression of Homo sapiens and the culture, I mean, we're not obliged to go to Mars, but some of us do decide that, all of my life is to go ahead, is to jump after the water, to go and see that mountain, to put my finger in this electricity, lead the children. And some others say, no, I'm well here, my grandparents did this way and I want to, and I'm fine. Also, I put something about the Rubicon concept because of a paper I read by Andra Meneganzi. I don't know if she's here in the audience. And this idea of the Rubicon, Andra says it's not the case to throw away the baby with the bath wash, but I think it's kind of time. This idea of at this point we jump it and then from here we become so smart. I don't believe it. If there is a moment, then is when we become Homo sapiens. So now, the thing is to see if it's a moment or is a period or a series of jump or so on, but I wouldn't really oppose behavior with biology. I mean, if it's just my opinion. So since I'm one of these people that that want to complicate their lives, I see, okay, let's go in East Africa and let's see if we can try to reply to some answers. What I like a lot from Gotera and these Gotera pictures, is that this is, like the classical East African landscape. If you see the Homo, it's like that. If you see Huntergatherers, it's like that. If you, Turkana, not really, no. But most of big sites in East Africa have this appearance. So when you arrive there first day, you feel like home. You know, you have seen so many pictures and documentaries and say, okay, this is the right place. Great. So I actually started this project because I was working in Turkana and in the center of Ethiopia. And I say, okay, let's see in the middle what happens. And I discovered that in this part of central Ethiopia, like, I don't know if it's really here, but anyway, there are not many well-known sites. I hope I have, no, I don't, a better map, sorry. Basically here, there is the Homo Valley and the Turkana, and here is Melka and Kone, and Aduma is a little bit, yeah, and there is Mochena and so on. But in this area, there are no well-known sites. And it's very interesting though. So I started the surveys following the path of Jean Chavaillon, who discovered the site. Maybe many of you would be familiar with that. You know, you're going to an excavation, you're driving, it's hot, you don't know what to do, you're driving since whatever. He had to go from, I don't know where, to Homo Valley, and he stopped. And it stopped, and oh, there were a lot of stones and soul tools. I said, oh, there's a site again. So then next time he had to stop by and make an excavation, poor guy, and everything. And it's very dangerous to stop on this kind of road. And, you know, you end up having all the GPS points and say, there is a site there, another site there, another site there. At the same time, I'm sorry, there is not the map. Chavaillon published a nice monograph on Gotera in the 80s. So he did the job, and I really admire him because he did like a huge amount of work. But all that we had was these pictures and the map, like one of your children between 4 and 6 could have drawn, without any reference, nothing. So basically, in the first year, we went like that, like completely random. Once we ended up in the mountain, in a village where they had never been a white person before, and we got stuck there, and yeah, and so on. But then, luckily, I think in 2016, so the second year, we found Gotera. So you see, this is the Chavaillons, and this is what we call the Gotera 1. We call the main site because we think it's more or less where Chavaillon had this excavation. Of course, there is a lot of erosion, especially by the rain. Impossible to find the trenches or anything like that 40 years after, but you know, the place is there, it's packed with lithics and bones, so it's okay. And then, so we did the intensive surveys in the area, walking in these, you know, incisions made by the rain in 2016. And then once we found this main site, which is, sorry, this is just a screenshot of my Google Earth. And most of them is like, you have to be there, check this, check that. So the main site is here. And so we surveyed the whole directory, you know, like 2-3 kilometers south and a couple of kilometers north. And the whole area is really packed with lithics on surface. This is the so-called main site. What we did was to collect the surface cutters and try to connect with the section. I'll show you the profile. Yeah, who knows me know that I'm really like also with surface finds. I'm really precise, so we took everything with total station and so on, because you know, if you work in East Africa, you understand that what you have in cave, in like for example in Europe, like packed in big pack. In Africa, you have all together because of the erosion. So you have no sediments, or the things are just, you know, on surface, what you would have on a, yeah. So it's really important to understand the processes because it could really make the difference. So we took all these cutters and we took a profile, and this is all the Chavaillon's profile. The environment is similar. So is this one, even though we haven't found yet this big layer with the massive pebbles and cobbles at the bottom. This is the profile made by Andrea Zerboni, and so we have two paleosoils, or at least the beginning of a paleosoils here in Gotera 1. And we imagine that the lithics we have in surface are from here. And so we took all the samples and everything. I'll tell you maybe later more about the environment, but basically it's a playa alternating with the marsh. So there is like some part of the sediments are without oxygens, like a lot of water, like pond, but very still ponds, and other is with like more like playa or rivers, like channels of the endorheic delta, says Andrea. But in 2018, sorry, yeah, this one is better. We found another site with the lithics and bone in situ, which is so full of things that the first day we couldn't walk. We didn't know how to go, how to do. And this is after the cleaning, but you have to imagine all of this was just you walked on stuff. So we took everything from the surface and we decided to start the excavation of this part, which is called Mound 1. And this site is called the Gotera 10, so the 10th site in the area of Gotera. And since then, we have been very happy because it's so rich site. We have like high density of lithics and bone in situ, and something we are calling fireplaces. Of course, they are not, sorry, it's very slow though. It's not really like structured fireplaces, sorry. But, you know, it's lenses with a lot of ashes and charcoals and things. We did AMS. We tried bones and with Sara Talamo, and it didn't work. There was no collagen, and we dated the charcoals. So this part of the sequence is between 45 and 43. We also did OSL, but no quartz. So it's been 3-4 years we're trying, and now they're trying the feldspar. They're doing an experimental protocol wherever we really hope it works. Right now, it's okay because we have an idea about the site. I have to say, I was expecting an older site, also because Gotera in literature, people used to say in East Africa, used to say 70,000, it's stage 4 and so on. And, you know, in East Africa, we are so few, very few people working there. So chat and you talk each other. And so I think we are here in the upper part of the sequence, and there could be parts that are like older, but we have to find a way to date them with OSL or something, otherwise we would never know. So this is one of the headache. Sorry, it doesn't move. Yeah, this is part of the excavation. This year we have been able to go back because we had to stop because of the COVID and also because of the civil war there is in Ethiopia since 2019-20. The situation is so we were there. The embassy said you shouldn't go. We stayed in Addis 2 weeks and saying every day, please let us go. Finally, we went. Right now, the south is safe, but of course, it has been tough. We found a lot of erosion with 3-4 years of rain, but we were able to, sorry if it works, I'll show you. We were able to restart the excavation to find everything. Also, you know, these are the signs of the old sampling we did in 2018, and this should be the bottom. And because now here, I mean, these are like working pictures, and we haven't worked yet on the samples, but here there is another playa level. So probably all the human occupation is on this soil here. And also we started, so here there was the excavation in 2018, and here is the excavation we did this summer, leaving a part in the middle in case we would need more sediments or anything. I hate this picture because there are the footprints of the students and they have been killed, so I have no more students. No, they're still there. Yeah, so yeah, this is the old excavation, this is the footprints, and this is the new excavation. And we will be able to reconnect both sides, so we have the same US, and we still have a lot of charcoal and fireplaces, ashes, or whatever you want to call them, and fauna and everything, and we are processing now. So I have some information about the team and what we are doing. Currently, I have 3 PhDs, one on lithic, one on FONAS, and one on stable isotope. And we're working on geoarchaeology with Andrea Zerboni, and OSL dating with Michael Meyer, and AMS with Sara Talamo. And also now we started pollen analysis with Juan Ochando and Donatella Magri from Sapienza. And now I have some slides from my students who sent them to show their result. We just started the funnel analysis. The PhD started a couple of months ago. And I have to say this is really challenging because of different reasons. One of the reasons is that these antelopes are all the same. And it's really hard to identify them, even if you have big pieces, but this one are really fragmentary. Yeah. This is the work Flavio, my son, 12 years old, was doing this summer in the lab. This is him. And, you know, most of FONAS are like this. And there are few identifiable, so it's not easy. On the other side, we have a very nice comparison collection there in RCCH, and there is a high density of paleontologists. There are paleontologists everywhere, so you go with a very teeny tiny piece of anything, and they immediately tell you what it is. So this is cool. So you see, most of them are not determinable, unfortunately. Nevertheless, Katarina was able to identify basically antelopes and some tragelaphine. Where are there? Yeah, this is the kudu, and a few carnivore and everything. So what is this from Katarina, who likes animations? Yeah. The question in Gotera is that everything in Gotera is small. So it was probably a small water basin, and it has small faunas, so small antelopes. There is not the big fauna. There are no hippos, no crocodiles, no giraffe. So it's interesting because also of the location of the area. It was probably small lake or marsh between mountains. So, but it was really intensively occupied. This we are sure. We're doing now stable isotope. Semi is doing that. Semi Alstrat. He sampled for carbon oxygen. He got some patterns for seasonal variability, and also to the adaptation of arid and semi-arid conditions, not really different from the one we have now, except that there was a lot of water. Basically that. Yeah, and geologists maybe will not like my explanation, but they're not here. Also, we're sampling for Strontium to see the mobility of the animals between different areas. Now, I don't have a nice map to show, but Gotera is a depression between high parts, high altitude location. So it would be really interesting to see if the animals pass this area on both sides. Most of the results we have in lithics, because Marianna's PhD is almost finished. We studied, and also we're working on residues analysis and use-wear with Cristina Lemorini. And the results are quite interesting. We have been studying the Gotera one and try to compare with the Chavaillon ones from the 80s. We have laminar, volumetric debitage, and also some very smaller ones. So basically we have the adaptation to two raw material, quartz and basalt, and very different and separate chain operatoire reduction sequences for each raw material. Yeah, this is some of the already studied lithics from the Mount one, so the new excavation in Gotera 10. And we can already say they are really different from the Gotera 1. So this at least tells us that the area was occupied for a long time, and that strategies changed through time. And so it's interesting. This is a summary of lithic result. So the lithics are really fresh. And there are a lot of methods, as I was saying, about the variability of Homo sapiens in MSA is crazy. So we have Levallois, discoid, laminar, bladelets. and very few tools. I mean, tools in sense of formal tools, so just a few denticulates or retouched flake. We have bipolar technology because, of course, it's the best way to work quartz because quartz is hard. And we have some nice Levallois core, very small one on quartz. And right now we're running comparisons, both within the area of Gotera and with other sites in Ethiopia. That should be the result from Marianna's PhDs. This is a global summary of what we know and we would like to know about Gotera. So it's MIS3, wet conditions, so a lot of water, primary deposition. We're also working on spatial analysis, and also we'll do refitting to see how we can pattern the behavior around these fireplaces and if something nice comes out. And also we would like to refit things from the mound with the one that were already eroded to have a sure connection, stratigraphic connection. And as I told you, an environment with antelopes and bovids, no big things. There are differences with the Gotera one. Gotera one, probably it was older. Everything is bigger and more massive, but we don't know because the OSL dates didn't work either on the other side. And there we had no cut charcoal, so we don't know exactly. And one of the goals of the next years would be to understand how far in time goes the sequence to see if we can get some record, I mean, the older one, because Chavaillon has also very massive, like they call chopping tool, but anyway, big. So, yeah. And we have in Gotera 10 incipient LSA. We don't know yet if we want to call it ELSA, which is the early late Stone Age, like they are. Like I would do just for the name, but still we don't know if we could call it very early late Stone Age because still we have Levallois. So I'll have to invent ENSA or something like that, find an acronym or something. There's some of the people from the team, which of course I put here to thank them. Also Marina Gallinaro, which I didn't mention. She has been with me since the beginning. Now she's my colleague in Sapienza still, and she works on more recent things, but also with the GIS and topography and everything. Oh, fuck. Yeah, these are the students, and also, yeah, I want to thank them. They work hard and so smart. And so just a couple of slides to summarize. Are Gotera people behaviorally modern? For me, yes, they are behaviorally modern. They can occupy a harsh environment. They nap zones and hunt. They gather themselves around fireplaces, so they are quite effective hunter-gatherers. Of course, if being modern is vehiculated exclusively to symbolic, so-called symbolic behavior through material culture, they're not behaviorally modern. And as I was saying, we have in East Africa the whole potential for all the modern behavior, meaning all the behavior that comes afterward, because everything originates from, I mean, all the humanity originates from there. So it's very important to understand what is going on there in the Pleistocene and what triggered the different behavior. The problem with Africa is that it's giant and gigantic continent, and we have so few sites. So for me, it's really important to have a site which has a nice record. Dating can be, I mean, we can be confident that we can get dates and try to understand first what's going on behaviorally at the regional level, and then try to make larger models. Just a few words about how the Homo sapiens. Lastly, we say, we're destroying the planet. We are terrible. We are the only species that fight the other species. Not true. We are killing ourselves. Not true. Other species do the same. But you know, other species don't go on Mars. Other species don't have hospitals, don't have vaccines, don't have healthcare, or don't live until 80. So I don't want to throw the baby and bathwash in this sense. And also we did many mistakes, but also we did some great things. So This is a quote from Adrian Lowe, the poem which is called right now Anti-Lamentation. So I like it. And yeah, probably the future is for our cousin, the primates. They happily are entering their Stone Age, or they did long time ago. Right now they're saying, yeah, the Pedra Furada things from 50,000 years ago were made by Capuchins. I think that I was persuaded since long time. So we need to put things in perspective. Yes, we're very nice. Yes, we're going to Mars, but no, we're not the only smart one around. We're not the only ones capable of using tools. We're not the only one evolving. They are too. Also, in the archaeological record, once you know that primates started using stone 50 years ago, then you know that you cannot automatically link the lithics to our clade or to something that goes through us. This also helps to put in perspective like how central and important we are. So it used to be, we started the Homo faber, we started Homo habilis with the idea that, yeah, he's doing tools, so he's an ancestor of ours. No. So both ideologically and materially, now when we find the lithics, we have to ask ourselves if some cousins of us or ancestors of us did it or not. And I think this is really interesting and one of the nicest, I think, most interesting things to do now. And finished. And I always put a bonus after the end, bonus track, because I'm very modern. And yeah, I think that human evolution should also help us to understand that we all come from the same source and we are all brothers ultimately. And thank you so much. Finished.